My son said he couldn't afford Thanksgiving this year. That's how it started. I remember his voice clearly on the phone.com. Polite mom. Things are a little tight this year. Jen and I were thinking of just keeping it low-key. No big dinner. We don't want to stress anyone out. He said it like it was for my benefit. Like they were doing me a favor. I stayed quiet for a second, then forced a small laugh. Oh well. I guess I'll just make something small here then. Maybe a chicken. I sighed. Yeah, I wish it were different. But you know how the economy is. I love you. Love you too, David. I hung up and stared at the wall for a while. Hold on a moment before we move forward. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if you're loving these stories, don't forget to hit subscribe. Noro's episode is going to. We absolutely mind-blowing. The house was silent. It had been since Harold passed away. 3 Thanksgivings without him. I was getting used to being alone, but this felt different. David had always come home. Even after Jen started calling the shots more openly, he always showed up for holidays. This year, the tone was different. The next few days, I tried to stay busy. I cleaned the kitchen even though it was already spotless. I took the cushions off the couch and vacuumed every corner. I made a grocery list and then tore it in half. What was the point of cooking for one? I ended up buying a single rotisserie chicken and a box of stuffing. No pie, no cranberry sauce. It's just enough to not feel like I had given up. Thanksgiving morning came and went without a call. I watched TV, flipped through old photo albums, and drank a glass of wine too early in the day. Around 4 p.m., I sent David a simple text. Hope you're having a peaceful day. No reply. It was around 8 p.m. that I opened Facebook. I don't go on there much anymore. That's how I keep up with my nieces, some friends from church. I wasn't looking for anything specific, but there it was. It's a photo that stopped me cold. A table, decorated beautifully. Candles, silverware, cloth napkins. There were at least 10 people seated around it. David, Jennifer, her parents, her sister, even a neighbor I recognized from years ago. Everyone smiling. Everyone dressed nicely. Turkey, ham, pie, wine, a full dinner. The caption read, "Grateful to be surrounded by love and blessings." Thanksgiving at the club never disappoints. At the club, I stared at the screen, trying to make sense of it. My hand went cold holding the phone. I zoomed in, hoping stupidly that maybe it was an old photo. But Jennifer's dress was the same one I had seen on her Instagram story too. Nights ago when she posted a mirror selfie, fresh manicure. New hairstyle. They hadn't canceled Thanksgiving. They had canceled me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there in my dark, quiet house, trying to remember the last time I had truly felt like family. I couldn't. That night, I barely slept. I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation from the past year. The time Jennifer said, "It's not that we don't love you, it's just that our schedule is chaotic." The way David would look down when she spoke for both of them. How suddenly I was too old to babysit, too tired to host, too fragile to be invited. I started wondering how deep it went. The next morning, I opened my laptop. I rarely check our old financial records, but something in me told me to. Harold and I had set up a small account in David's name years ago, with the intention of helping him through hard times. It wasn't much, just a few thousand we had, tucked away after selling our boat. I had forgotten about it until I saw a transaction from it last month. $2,800. Club dining charge, November annual renewal. My heart sank. I opened my savings account. There was another charge, $4,200. Interior renovation services. That one came from a joint line I had co-signed when they bought their house. David had said it was only temporary. It's just for mortgage approval. But somehow that line was still active. My name was on it. I kept scrolling. Spa charges. Furniture deliveries. A payment to an online jewelry store. All within the last 60 days. All linked to accounts I'd forgotten I still had access to or assumed had been closed. My hands shook as I clicked through screen after screen. It wasn't just that they lied about Thanksgiving. It was that they had continued using my money like I didn't exist, and I had let them. I stood up slowly, knees stiff, and walked to the kitchen. The cold chicken was still in the fridge, untouched. I poured myself a cup of coffee, sat back down, and started writing things down. Every account, every charge, every document I could find. Then I opened the drawer next to the fridge, the one with the keys, including the set to their house. I had never given it back. I stared at them for a long time, and that's when it began. The plan wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about yelling or confronting or begging. It was about taking back what I had built, what I had given. What they assumed I was too old, too soft, or too forgettable to reclaim. I made a list, not just of what they owed me, but of what was still legally mine. And then I waited. I waited until the next time I knew they would leave the house. And when that night came, put on my coat, picked up the folder, and walked out the door. Because if they were going to pretend I didn't exist, then they wouldn't miss what I was about to take. Not until it was too late. They didn't see me coming. And I made sure of that. David and Jennifer had gone out again the following Saturday. I knew their pattern. Jennifer posted almost everything: outfits, restaurant tags, who they were with. It didn't take much effort to figure out they were attending a charity gala downtown. Black tie dinner, silent auction, photos. I waited until Jennifer's posts confirmed they were both at the event and staying overnight at the hotel. I took my time. I didn't rush, put on my coat, placed all the documents I had gathered in a tote bag, and got in my car. Their house was only 20 minutes away. A neighborhood full of identical homes with artificial grass and driveways to clean to be lived in. I parked around the corner and walked up to the front door like I had done dozens of times over the years. The motion lights came on. Didn't hesitate. I still had the key. Inside, everything looked the same. Perfectly curated, not a single item out of place. The smell of expensive candles hit me first. Something citrusy and cold. The furniture was new, sleek leather, cold metal. It wasn't the furniture I helped them buy 5 years ago when they moved in. That furniture had been quietly replaced. It's probably around the same time I stopped being invited. I walked to the dining area and opened the built-in cabinets. Inside, I found crystal glasses, wine bottles, and a new set of plates, bone white with gold trim. None of it was there when I last visited. I took a picture. Then I moved on. I wasn't there to snoop. I was there to gather. I opened the folder from my bag and started laying it out on the kitchen island. Pages with bank statements, screenshots of charges, emails I had printed from when I agreed to co-sign the line of credit. Everything carefully highlighted. All of it showing that my name, my money, had been behind almost everything in that house. And yet I wasn't worth a seat at their Thanksgiving table. I checked the garage. The car Jennifer drove. A Range Rover. The documents I pulled earlier that week showed that the insurance policy was under my name as the original guarantor. They never changed it. Another photo. Upstairs, I found the home office, neatly organized. And there, sitting on the desk, was a file box. Inside, I found utility bills, HOA statements, and their mortgage folder. My name wasn't on the deed anymore. They had refinanced last year, okay? But they had kept the joint line of credit active. I had never received a notification, not one. That's when I saw it. Tucked inside a separate envelope, a checkbook, drawn from the joint line and still active. My hand tightened on the edge of the counter. I flipped it open. Jennifer's name was on the checks. And my name in faded print as the owner of the account. That was enough. I took the checkbook and placed it in my bag. Then I sat at their dining table and began writing a list. Everything I intended to reclaim. Not just money. Items, control, space, access. They thought I wouldn't notice. They counted on me not checking. That was their mistake. I finished my list and walked back downstairs. I didn't touch their personal belongings. I didn't destroy anything, but I took photos. I documented. I opened every drawer they had forgotten was legally accessible to me. In their bedroom closet, I found a storage bin. Inside were old family items, things I had given them over the years, quilt I had sewn for their wedding, still folded. Still in the plastic wrap, I delivered it in a photo of Harold holding baby Emily, their oldest, in a wood frame. The glass was cracked. It had been shoved to the back of the bin under a pile of Christmas lights. That hurt more than anything else. I put it back and closed the lid by the time I left. I had everything I needed: proof, evidence, financial history, and most importantly, a plan. The next day, I made 3 phone calls. First, to the bank. I requested a freeze on the joint credit line. I explained that I had never agreed to continued use after the refinance. The representative hesitated, but after reviewing the paperwork, he confirmed I still had full authority to suspend access. Second, to the lawyer Harold and I had used for our estate planning. I explained the situation. He wasn't surprised. "We've seen this before," he said. "Elder financial abuse is more common than people want to admit. You've got leverage. You just need to decide how far you want to take it." Third, to a locksmith. I had access to the second property, a small lake cabin we had purchased 20 years ago. It had been used as a weekend getaway. We had gifted temporary access to David years ago, but I still owned it completely. Jennifer had decorated it once, saying they might turn it into an Airbnb. I had let it go. Not anymore. I changed the locks. That Monday, I visited the county records office. I paid a small fee to get full copies of all property and title transfers involving David and Jennifer. I compared them to my file. That's when I noticed something. The private club membership they paid with my account was listed as a lifetime family plan, with me registered as the primary. They had listed me as the financial anchor but excluded me from every event. I called the club. A polite woman answered. I asked to update the account holder information and requested a cancellation. Citing misuse of funds, she paused, then asked, "Are you the legal primary?" "Yes," I said. "And I'd like everything under my name removed effective immediately." That was that. By Wednesday, the account was frozen. The card declined. Their access revoked. I waited. And then Thursday morning, the phone rang. "It was David, Mom. I didn't say anything, did you? Did you cancel the club membership?" Still silent. He cleared his throat. "Just trying to understand. What's going on?" "Jen tried to pay for her mother's luncheon yesterday, and the card got declined. It was embarrassing." Embarrassing. That was the word he used. Not cruel. Not deceptive. Not painful. Just embarrassing. "Mom," he said again, quieter now, "can we talk?" I said sure, but not over the phone. I gave him a time, Saturday, noon, at my house. "No, Jennifer," I hung up. Then I sat down, poured a fresh cup of coffee, and opened the folder again. I wasn't done yet. Not even close. This wasn't about one holiday. It was about everything they had slowly taken, piece by piece, while pretending I should be grateful just to be nearby. But I had stopped waiting for permission, and I was finally ready to take back everything they never thought I'd question. David arrived exactly at noon on Saturday. I watched him pull up from the window, his SUV idling in the driveway longer than necessary. When he finally stepped out, he didn't look angry. He looked cautious. Like a man stepping onto a frozen lake. He knocked once. I opened the door without a smile, without a word, and walked back to the kitchen. He followed. He hadn't been in my house in nearly a year. He sat down at the kitchen table. It's the same table where we used to eat birthday cake, where Harold used to read the paper, where David once helped Emily glue glitter on school projects. I didn't offer him coffee. I didn't ask how he'd been. He cleared his throat. "I didn't realize the credit line was still active in your name." I didn't respond. "I thought when we refinanced, it got rolled over." "You never confirmed?" I said flatly. He exhaled. "Okay, maybe we should have checked. But it's not like we were hiding it from you." I slid a folder across the table. "David, you used that line to buy club memberships, furniture, and a $900 blender." He flinched slightly. Was a gift. Jen thought it would help with your arthritis. The smoothies, I never received the blender. His mouth opened and closed. He looked down and the club membership, I continued. You listed me as the primary sponsor. You used my account, my credit. You went there for Thanksgiving, and you didn't think I'd find out. He stayed quiet for a moment, then said, we didn't think it was a big deal. You never really liked big dinners anyway. Jen didn't want to stress you. I didn't look away. Jen didn't want me there. He didn't deny it. That was the answer. So what happens now? He asked. I leaned back in my chair. I froze. The line. Canceled the club membership. I contacted a lawyer. I've gathered records of every transaction tied to my name. David's eyes widened slightly. Wait, Mom, are you suing us? No, I said. But I'm protecting. What's mine? That includes the lake cabin, the account you're still listed on, and the property line between our names. I'm changing everything. Access, authority, ownership. His tone shifted, a layer of disbelief creeping in. You're serious? I am. He rubbed the side of his face. Mom, this doesn't have to get nasty. I get it. You're upset. You don't need to do this. I already did. He stared at me. You're really pulling back everything? I'm not pulling back, I corrected. It's cool. I'm taking back. He leaned forward. What about Emily and Jack? You think this won't affect them? Their grandmother. No, I said calmly. I used to be. He opened his mouth to argue, but stopped. Instead, he looked around the kitchen as if realizing how unfamiliar it had become. His gaze landed on the family photo still on the shelf. All of us, 10 years ago. He stood up. I don't know who put all this in your head, he muttered, walking toward the door. But this isn't you. I followed behind him. No, David, this is the part of me you never thought would show up. He turned to say something else, then thought better of it. He walked to the SUV, started the engine, pulled away without looking back. I locked the door. That night, Jennifer called. I let it ring, then she texted. Very classy. Guess we know where we stand now. I didn't respond. I sat in the living room and stared at the document my lawyer had prepared. A full summary of everything being transferred back into my name, including the title to the lake cabin. I'd officially locked them out of it. New locks, new code. The ownership documents had already been notarized. The next morning, the silence was broken again, this time by Jennifer. She came unannounced, banging on my front door like the world owed her answers. I opened it without a word. She didn't wait to be invited in. This is ridiculous, she said, walking straight into the living room. You're acting like we stole from you. You did? I said. It wasn't theft, she snapped. It was family. You offered help. You were part of the process. You removed me from your holidays, from your events, from your life, I replied. But you kept my money. Jennifer's face turned red. We didn't remove you. You isolate yourself. You don't make it easy. You complain. You act like a victim every time we make decisions without asking your permission. I co-signed your house, I said calmly. That was permission. You made decisions without me. And now you're upset? I'm doing the same. You think you're punishing us? This doesn't hurt us. It just makes you look bitter. I walked to the entry table, picked up a manila envelope, and handed it to her. This is a list of everything you charged under my name in the last 20 months. If you want to dispute it, I'll see you in court. She froze. Her eyes scanned the first page. I could tell when she saw the total. She threw the folder on the floor. Unbelievable. I didn't flinch. You're not owed access to my life just because you married my son. And you're not entitled to my finances because I've been quiet until now. Her voice cracked. This is why he stopped trying. You always act like the victim. No, I said. I stayed silent. That's not the same thing. She picked up her purse. You'll regret this. You're cutting off your own son, your grandchildren. I looked her in the eye. No, you already did that for me. She walked out. This time, I didn't watch her leave by Monday. I had closed the joint line and moved all remaining accounts into a private trust with my name only. My lawyer submitted a formal notice revoking their financial access to any properties or funds I had once shared. And then I did something simple. I rented a truck. I drove to the lake cabin with a few bags, a space heater, and the ceramic lamp Harold loved. I unpacked slowly. I arranged the quilt I'd made on the couch. I stocked the fridge with groceries. I opened the windows and let in the cold. Fresh air. I slept there that night. Warm, alone. Free, the next day, I turned off my phone because, now, finally, it wasn't theirs anymore. It was mine. I stayed at the lake cabin for 3 days without interruption. No phone calls, no knocks on the door. Just silence. On the 4th day, I turned my phone back on. There were 17 missed calls. 10 from David, 5 from Jennifer. 2 from an unknown number I later confirmed was from Jennifer's mother. The messages ranged from passive-aggressive to pleading. David, Mom, I don't understand what you're doing. You're making this bigger than it has to be. Jennifer, you can't just disappear and cut us off like this. This affects everyone. Jennifer's mother, we need to talk. Family doesn't do this to family. I didn't respond. I didn't delete the messages. Either I saved them. My lawyer had advised me to document everything. Later that afternoon, I returned to my house in the city. The mailbox was overflowing, started through credit card offers, advertisements, and a letter from the HOA. And then I found one envelope addressed by hand. No return address. Inside was a photo. It was a picture of me from last summer standing alone at the edge of David's backyard, holding a bowl of fruit. Everyone else was seated at the table in the background, laughing, talking. No one looking at me on the back of the photo. Someone had written in blue ink, "Maybe now you understand your place." No signature. No explanation. I stared at the handwriting, but I recognized it immediately. Jennifer, it was childish, petty, but effective. I brought the photo inside and added it to my file folder. Evidence, just in case. The next morning, I received an email from the private club. Subject: attempted access denied, apparently. Jennifer had tried to use the membership again during a brunch with a few friends. The account had already been terminated. Her guest list was turned away. The email included a notice that my name had been removed entirely from all affiliate records and that a refund for the unused portion had been issued to my card. I smiled slightly. It wasn't about revenge. It was about control. One had taken back what was mine, one step at a time. That same week, I scheduled a meeting with my accountant. We went over all the active accounts still bearing David's or Jennifer's names. We discovered 2 more, an old emergency savings account and a college fund that had originally been set up for Emily. David had moved the funds 3 years ago, without notifying me. I froze both accounts. Legally, everything was still in my name. That was his mistake. He assumed I would never look. Later that evening, my landline rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. It was Emily. "Hi, Grandma. I don't know if this is still your number," Mom says. "You're not well, but I wanted to hear from you. I miss you. Jack does too." Her voice cracked at the end. Then silence. I sat at the table for a long time after that, not knowing what to do with the message. I didn't call back. I needed time. I didn't trust that she hadn't been told to call me just to play some manipulative angle. But it still hurt. The next day, my lawyer called. "Thought you'd want to know," he said. David filed a petition to contest the freeze on the accounts. He's claiming financial elder exploitation against you. That you're not mentally sound. I didn't speak for a moment. "You're going to want to prepare some documentation," he continued. "Medical records, mental health assessments, anything that proves capacity." "I have it all," I replied. A few weeks earlier, after Thanksgiving, when I first suspected how deep this might go, I had scheduled a complete physical and cognitive exam. My doctor, Dr. Langley, had documented everything. There was no sign of decline, no impairment. Okay. My paperwork was solid. Good, my lawyer said. 'Cause they're trying to turn this around on you. They were desperate. That's what it meant when someone tries to make you look crazy. See, it usually means you've caught them doing something they can't defend. That night, I began writing everything down. Every conversation I remembered. Every time I paid for something on their behalf. Every bank transfer, every dinner, every favor. I built a timeline that stretched over 15 years. I made copies of every document and photograph. I mailed sealed duplicates to my lawyer. Jennifer texted me again. You're tearing this family apart over money. I replied for the first time. You already tore it apart. I'm just keeping the pieces you left behind. She didn't reply. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. It wasn't a full trial, just a preliminary review of the petition. I walked in with my lawyer and a file box. David sat across the room in a blue blazer, looking uncomfortable. Jennifer sat beside him, arms crossed. Their attorney began with a soft, concerned tone. Mrs. Miller has shown signs of isolation, financial confusion, and emotional instability, he said. We believe she is being advised by individuals who may not have her best interests at heart. My lawyer stood and handed over my medical report, my cognitive exam, and a notarized affidavit from my physician. The judge read it carefully. After 15 minutes, he dismissed the petition entirely. No trial, no further review. Mrs. Miller is of sound mind and legally entitled to make all financial decisions regarding her assets, the judge said. This petition lacks basis and appears retaliatory in nature. David looked stunned. Jennifer looked furious. I didn't say a word. I walked out of that courtroom without even glancing at them. 3 days later, I received a letter. It was hand-delivered. No stamp, no postmark. Inside was a typed note on plain white paper. You think you've won? This isn't over. No name, but I knew who it was. I handed it to my lawyer. Let them keep digging, he said. Eventually, they'll bury themselves. I returned to the cabin the following weekend. I brought a few more things from the city. Cookware, books, an old photo of Harold and me from our anniversary trip to Oregon, as I sat on the porch with a mug of tea. I watched the water. The cabin was quiet, but it didn't feel empty. Not anymore. They had tried to take my name, my credit, my property, and my peace, but I took it all back, without threats, without yelling, just paperwork, and now they didn't know what to do with me. The morning after the failed court hearing, I woke up to something. Unexpected, an email from Emily. It was short. Grandma, I don't know what's going on, but I miss you. Can we talk? I stared at the screen for a long time. Emily had just turned 16, smart, quiet, observant. She was always the one who noticed when I was tired or when something felt off at family dinners. Still, I couldn't tell if the message came from her or if Jennifer had encouraged her to send it. I decided not to reply right away. Instead, I forwarded the email to my lawyer. His response was brief. Don't engage until the financial matters are fully secured. They're still unstable. That afternoon, I returned to my house in the city. I had avoided it for a while. The cabin had become a better place to think. But I needed to check my mail and finish transferring a few documents at the bank. When I opened the front door, I noticed something strange. The lights were on. I was sure I'd turned everything off when I left. I walked slowly through the living room. Nothing appeared out of place. But in the kitchen, a cabinet door was wide open. Then I saw it. The dining chair had been moved. And on the table, small plastic badge from the private security company David once worked with years ago. I called my lawyer. I think someone was in the house. I told him, did you file a police report? Not yet. Do it now. Don't let it slide. So I did. An officer arrived within 30 minutes. He walked the perimeter, took photos, noted that the locks hadn't been forced. But he didn't dismiss me. He believed me. It could be someone with a key, he said. You should consider changing the locks. If I already had, Jennifer and David didn't know that the front door was the only one still appearing original. The real lock had been moved behind a dummy shell. I changed it a week after the last confrontation. They had tried to enter using the old key. That much was clear. I added it to the file. The officer filed a report, though he admitted there was no proof it was a break-in yet. 2 days later, Amoy lawyer received an official letter from David's attorney. They were now claiming undue emotional distress caused by my decision to remove financial support abruptly, and that the loss of access had created mental anguish within the immediate household. I nearly laughed when I read it. Jennifer had once told me I was too sensitive. Now, they were accusing me of psychological harm because I stopped paying for their lifestyle. I sent back my response through counsel. Emotional distress is not the same as financial dependency. My name, my credit, my legal rights, my lawyer. Included copies of the loan agreements and past transactions to shut it down preemptively. That night, sat at the kitchen table and reread Emily's email. Part of me wanted to respond. I missed her. I missed Jack too, even though he was younger and didn't understand as much. But I had to stay focused. I wasn't done yet. There was still the house. Years ago, Harold and I had added David's name as a partial beneficiary to one of our properties, not for transfer, but in case of emergency. A formality. We had never officially updated it after Harold passed. My lawyer filed the paperwork to revoke it. Once that was done, I listed the house not my main one. The older one, the one we had once considered letting David and Jennifer use as a rental. They never moved forward, but still made passive comments for years. If we ever sell our place, we might move into that one. Or it's kind of in our family already, isn't it? Now, it was going on the market. I didn't tell them. I didn't need to. The sign went up on a Monday. By Wednesday, Jennifer was at my front door again. You're selling it? She asked. No greeting, no courtesy. Yes, I answered. You didn't even tell us. I didn't need to. Her voice sharpened. That house was supposed to be for the kids. No, I said calmly. It was never promised. You just assumed she didn't like that. Her lips pressed into a tight line. Do you realize how childish this all looks? She said, you're isolating yourself, turning your back on everyone. No, I'm turning away from abuse. She scoffed. You're unbelievable. David was right. You've changed. I stopped pretending. That's different. She left in a hurry. I didn't stop her. The house sold 2 weeks later. Cash buyer. Full asking price. I transferred the funds into a separate account. One they didn't know existed. I didn't need the money. But I wanted it somewhere untouched. Somewhere safe. By the end of that month, David and Jennifer had lost access to every account I once shared with them. No more auto payments, no more silent contributions. No more financial invisibility. And then, for the first time in nearly a year, I sat in a financial advisor's office with a folder that didn't include anyone else's name. It felt clean. Final. 1 week after that, I received a handwritten card, no return address. Inside was a small note. I know things have been messy. Just want to talk. Maybe I can come visit. Just me, no one else. Emily. I folded the card and placed it on my nightstand. I hadn't decided yet, but something told me this message was real. And for the first time in a long while, didn't feel like bait. It felt like a bridge. I didn't respond to Emily's letter right away. I read it twice a day, every day for a full week. It didn't feel like something Jennifer had planted. The handwriting was shaky in places, not the polished cursive Jennifer would have coached. There were crossed out words. It felt honest. After everything that had happened, I couldn't afford to be naive. But I also couldn't ignore the fact that Emily had reached out, that she had taken the time to write by hand, put it in an envelope, and send it without any demand. Just a hope. So I wrote back, you can visit, just you, Saturday, the lake cabin. Noon. I kept it simple. No explanations. No emotional language. I mailed it with a tracking number. Saturday came. It was cold and overcast, but the lake was still. The air smelled clean. I put a kettle on, swept the porch, and waited. At exactly noon, I saw her walking up the gravel path. Alone. No car in sight. She must have been dropped off around the bend. Emily looked taller than I remembered. Her hair was pulled back, her coat slightly oversized. She carried a backpack, not a purse. That detail mattered to me. I opened the door before she could knock. Double quotes, "Hi, Grandma." I stepped aside. She entered slowly, looking around the cabin like it was a place she'd only heard about but never seen. Which, truthfully, was close to the truth. Her parents hadn't brought her here since she was 7. I gestured to the table. "Sit." I made tea. She sat without hesitation. We didn't speak for a minute. I poured the tea, passed her a mug, and sat across from her. "I'm not here to change your mind," she said. "I just wanted to see you." That's not how Jennifer usually operates. I didn't tell her. I nodded, but said nothing. She said you'd gone off the deep end, that you were paranoid, angry all the time. I raised an eyebrow. "And what do you think?" "I think you finally stopped letting people walk on you. That makes them nervous." She didn't flinch when she said it. She looked at me directly. I leaned back in my chair. "You always were too smart for your own good." She smiled, but there was sadness in it. "I know what they did," she continued. "Maybe not everything. I saw enough. It's the way they talk about you when you're not there. How Mom uses your name when she needs something, then acts like you're a burden the rest of the time." I didn't interrupt. Let her talk. "Dad doesn't even argue anymore. He just stays quiet. And Jack? He's still young, but I think he notices things too." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small stack of photos, family pictures, old ones. Some I hadn't seen in years. I found these in the garage, stuff they were going to throw out. I took the photos and looked at them slowly. One of them was from my 60th birthday party. I was holding Jack, and David was standing next to me. Jennifer wasn't in the picture. I remembered that day. She said she had a headache and stayed inside most of the afternoon. They said the cabin wasn't safe. Emily said, "That you were living out here like some recluse? It's warmer than it looks," I replied. "And quiet. I like quiet now." She nodded. "I get that." I poured us each more tea. After a while, she pulled out a folded envelope and slid it across the table. "I don't want anything from you," she said, "but I figured you might want to know." I opened it. It was a copy of a group text thread between Jennifer, David, and a few of Jennifer's family members. In it, they were discussing how to salvage the situation before I made it worse legally. They talked about visiting me together, confronting me in front of neighbors, even spinning a story about mental decline to the rest of the extended family. None of it worked. They didn't expect court records to be public, or for me to have documentation, or for Emily to be paying attention. "They think I'm just a kid," she said. "They don't realize I've been watching for years." I tucked the envelope into a drawer. We didn't talk much more that afternoon. I made sandwiches. She helped me reorganize a shelf. We went for a short walk along the edge of the lake. When it started to get dark, I asked if she needed a ride. "No," she said. "My friend is picking me up." She paused at the door. "I know things are broken. I don't expect you to forgive everything, but I just wanted to see you again." "You can come back?" I said. "If it's on your own terms?" She nodded. "It is." Then she left. The cabin was quiet again, but it didn't feel empty this time. That night, made one final call to my lawyer. "I want everything finalized." I told him, "Trust closed, assets separated, and update the will." He asked if I wanted to leave anything to David or Jennifer. "No," I said. "It's only Emily and Jack. If he ever comes to me on his own." Understood. The paperwork was done within 10 days. A week later, I hosted a quiet dinner at the cabin. Just me, a roast chicken, mashed potatoes, pie I bought from the local bakery. At the end of the meal, I took out one final box, a set of keys, old photographs, and a note Harold had written years ago that I'd forgotten about. It said, "If they ever make you feel like you don't belong, remember, you built this, and you still can choose who gets to be part of it." I kept that note on the table that night because this time I wasn't the one waiting to be invited. I was the one who decided who stayed. And for once, it felt like enough.